so I think we can all agree that 2020 is the worst thing ever. But if there's one thing I've found out from doing this show is that at the bottom of the barrel is another bottom to reveal another barrel, and today we are taking a look at one of such barrels. I've covered my fair share of stuff in this show. Rape, pedophilia, necrophilia, incest, and whatever category you would put Latex Blue in. But there's one thing I haven't covered, oddly enough, which is war. And to cover that, I'm afraid we have to bully the furries again, cause I don't just go for the low-hanging fruit. No.
Professionals have standards.
No, I'm going to go for the comic created by the CEO of War, the founder of Furry War on the Furnet IRC network, Austin Wolfclaw.
And the comic in question is Carnivores.
The comic Carnivores was created back in December 2002 and is, believe it or not, still ongoing. The comic switches a little back and forth between various different characters doing random stuff that almost always centers around war. And for those of you who have not been tainted yet, let me tell you what war is, cause I sure don't understand it, and I hope we can educate ourselves together. War, shortened from warphilia, is a fetish stemming from the desire to consume or to be consumed by another person or creature. The fantasy usually consists of someone being swallowed whole and often includes the process of digesting the consumed individual. There's also taken great care in describing the bulging of the devourer's stomach. In 2013, a case study was made on warphilia by Amy D. Likens and James M. Cantor, where they tried to figure out where such an outlandish fetish came from. As opposed to many other fetishes, for better or worse, this one is simply not physically possible. Here they theorized it had a connection to sexual masochism and that the act of war could be motivated by the desire to merge with a powerful being or permanently escape loneliness.
And you'll be happy to know that this comic reflects none of this, as the comic will often lackadaisically reference people's brutal deaths. So, because someone's gotta do it I suppose, let's dive into Carnivores. Not that poor phrasing.
Right off the bat, let me just get this off my chest. You see these boxes down here, under the comic? You know, where the author and artist can put their thoughts or whatever they want? Yeah, those. There's no real rule for what to use that for. It's just considered common practice that this is where you kind of put your thoughts and feelings about each individual page. It can span from a single letter to a full essay. So, all that to say, it's kinda hard to fuck this one up. But do not worry, cause Wolfclaw somehow found a way to do just that. Every single one of these boxes here are used to describe what happens on the page. If a guy shits on the carpet, Wolfclaw will be there in the little box going, "Jimmy shits on the carpet." It's like he's reading stage directions at some points. Makes me think of J-Station, who has this annoying fucking obsessive need to comment on everything he's doing.
Oh my god, you guys! I just found this gin, you guys! Oh my god! Oh my god, guys! Look at it! Look at the gin, guys! Okay, smash that like button. If we get 69 likes, I'm gonna drink this gin, even though there's no way that I can possibly know it, as I'm going to drink it in this very video. Okay, you guys, let's try and drink the gin. Ah, it's such a banger, you guys! It's such... How the fuck are you guys enjoying that shit?
Every now and again, you will however find some interesting stuff in the box, like this one time where Wolfclaw just straight up lets it slip that he has a criminal record, which, try as I may, I have not been able to find, even though I did find his real name and address. So I don't know if he's just trying to act more interesting than he already is, or if I just didn't do a good enough job finding it.
But I will get more into how Austin is so interesting later, because Austin is actually a character in his own comic. Unapologetically so.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about what exactly is Carnivores. Carnivores is what a 10-year-old would make if they were to make a comic. The only problem is that this year, Austin is gonna turn 40. And the comic started 18 years ago. With some quick maths, can deduce that Austin was 22 years old when he made this comic. Which is telling. The reason I'm saying it's a comic that a 10-year-old would make is because of something I brought up in my videos before. Young immature writers have a tendency of being inspired and amazed by things they see around them, and thus think, oh, I want this in my comic too, no matter how little it fits. They think it's cool now, so they're gonna put that in. Now, as writers get older and more mature, they still do get inspired while making their comics, but they get better at hiding the inspiration that hit them at that point in time. Austin doesn't. Carnivores is a comic that reads very much like a panic attack in that it is all over the goddamn map. You think the comic is about a shark ending up in a swimming pool? Psych, it's now about EverQuest. You think it's about a lion being eaten by a bear? Fuck you, here's Goku. Wanna focus on this story about a guy who'll do literally everything you tell him to, including eating shit, and yes, that's in there? Throw some Doctor Who in there. Especially the Doctor Who thing is very apparent, as Austin has an entire chapter dedicated to him, yes, Austin, and Doctor Who going to a venue where some FurCon is usually held, and before they know it, end up in a death game that seems to be sponsored by the Daleks. There'll also be constant hints and references to Doctor Who, and I know that despite not caring that much for the show, cause Austin will fill the text box underneath the comic with a bunch of Doctor Who trivia, despite it adding nothing to the comic.
And let's get one thing clear.
Now, as I've already pointed out, I don't know anything about war. I don't like it, I think it's weird, but I know it's sexual. I know there's something about this that gets people's rocks off. However, I know people well enough to know that people have a tendency to hide their fetishes behind something, to make the thing more cute and innocent. Like, oh no, it's fine that I wanna fuck this girl who looks like she's 9 years old cause she's actually a 7,000-year-old deity.
Then why did you draw him like this?
You're still attracted to the appearance of a child, you're fucked up, don't at me. Anyway, I'm saying this cause I can imagine that somewhere there's gonna be some dudes who point at this war and go, no, it's not sexual, it's funny, even though it's not even remotely funny, but I digress. Or, you know, add some explanation why it's there, like, oh, it's not sexual, it's thematically appropriate, or it's just cozy, or some weird shit like that. And really, you do you. But I need to stress this. There's not a single solitary speck of doubt in my mind that this here is supposed to be sexual. Shocker, I know. And I know this because Austin often goes out of his way to comment on how sexy the bulge of someone's stomach is after they've devoured a creature whole. Now again, if you think that's hot, then I'm not gonna take that away from you. This is ultimately a fetish that can't hurt anyone. You can't physically go out and devour someone whole, and according to my research, sexualized cannibalism, yes, apparently that's a thing, and you are now a piece of knowledge richer that I bet you wish to live your entire life without, you're welcome, is completely different from war. So, again, if you're into war, be my guest, man. It do be like that sometimes. But I just want you to keep this in mind as we cover the writing, cause if the war is strictly sexual, then that means this comic is basically a porno. A porno where Austin saw it fitting to put himself in as a character most of the time.
This is like up there with those fanfics where it's like, oh, and then I, the author, got teleported into this video game world where people were super hype about the size of my huge penis. You know, like Elseworld Chronicles.
I know I said I'm not gonna kink shame anyone, but I'm kinda gonna walk that one back, just a teeny bit. If nothing else, then to just ask some questions. Really? This is hot to you? Being eaten whole? Like, I kinda get it. A mouth can be sexy. My favorite part of a girl is typically some nice lips. And you know, you can do stuff with saliva and lipstick and all that shit, so yeah, I get that. But I'm not out to be fucking eaten by anyone. But, okay, fair enough. Then what's the whole thing about the digestion? Like, that's the thing that really fucks me up. It's one thing to eat someone, and I guess now they're inside of you, which isn't all that different to normal sex in some regard, I suppose, if I take my brain out of my skull. But they're dying. They're specifically dying very slowly. They're fucking melting, my guy. How is this hot? And there's even several mentions of characters later being turned into shit. How in the fuck is this hot to you? This is horrible. It's fucking torture porn many of the times.
Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. It's like a visceral reaction of discontent coming from this area. This area is not good either. I hate this, but I'm mainly worried about this.
Like in the Doctor Who episode I mentioned earlier, there's a guy who gets absorbed alive by a big blob of transparent goo and you get to see him just dissolve into bones. How can you not look at this and think horror? Which kinda leads me nice and easily into the point I wanted to make. I cannot for the life of me deduce what I characterize this genre as. It's not funny, let's just get that out of the way real fucking fast. It's not drama, cause everyone is so lackadaisical about everything that's happening that there's no agency to it, and I have a hard time seeing how anyone could find this hot when it looks like it's drawn by a 5-year-old. And all of the art portraying the actual devouring is typically big mouth opens, see the hind legs sticking out of the mouth, and boom, big stomach, and then all there's left is the dissolving of the subject within the stomach of the carnivore. And because this comic switches around so often, there never seems to be a steady tone or even universe. Sometimes there's magic, sometimes there's robots, sometimes Goku shows up. At one point the comic is done entirely by sprites, and other times it's using graphics from EverQuest. Heck, many times there's not even the actual vor in it, there's no carnivores. There is, in other words, no rhyme or reason to any of it.
The comic is parted up into arcs, as Austin likes to call them, but the problem is that an arc is an extended or continuing storyline within episodic storytelling, meaning that each arc has to have some kind of connection with the other, but that's not the case here at all. Each arc is completely separate from everything else, to the point where at the fourth arc or something, every main character that has been established has just disappeared.
This comic is just bad in every sense of the word. It's boring, it's dumb, it's nonsensical, and I was originally gonna write that it's at least not offensive, but it actually is. Let me bring up 2 arcs, just so I can give you an idea of what the comic has to offer. The first one I'll bring up, I've already mentioned some of, which is the one where Doctor Who, in a furry form, shows up and decides to take Austin on a journey in his TARDIS, this weird interdimensional spaceship thingy. And they go to Adams Mark's hotel that used to host Anthrocon. While there, the Doctor and Austin gets captured by armed guards who were transporting prisoners to the top floor. It turns out that the Adams Mark Hotel is now being used as a death game where the prisoners have to run from the top floor down to the bottom floor, and whoever survives gets to live and wins. And wouldn't you know it, the TARDIS is at the bottom floor too. Honestly, in terms of setups for excuses to see people get bored or whatever, this could be worse. But that's until you get introduced to the prisoners in question. We got Jeremiah, who's a murderer and a rapist. There's Ryu, who tried to blow up the US Embassy. And then there's Sao, who was selling bootleg DVDs. And Peter, who wrestled his 2 brothers too hard. Now, I might be looking for stuff to bitch about. That's a very real possibility, but why is it that the only 2 people who has done stuff that's incredibly fucked up are the people of color? Anyone? Maybe it's just me. Anyway, Sao's the first to get bodied as a pair of giant birds claw him to shreds and eat his dick. No war though, just full-on brutal murder. Complete with the bird specifically crushing Sao's heart in front of the camera in its beak. Peter is the next one to go as he gets a gelatinous cube over him and he just slowly dissolves into a fine red mist, and we are told that $20,000 is gonna go to his family of 4.
Reminder, this is all being played for laughs, by the way.
Now it's the doctor's turn to get attacked by a big bear, but before it can eat the doctor, it gets punched in the nose. You don't see it, you're told it, which is fucking odd considering there's a full frame you could show it in. But instead you're choosing to show the doctor just looking at it. But if you think that's dumb and weird, you're not ready for what happens next, as Jeremiah gets clotheslined and then eaten by Russell from Gorillas. No, I'm not joking, that's Russell from Gorillas. It's specifically him. And no, you're not gonna find any answers underneath the comic either. So BBB brought a friend, one of the members of the Gorillaz music group, Russell. That's who clotheslined Jeremiah. See, this is what I mean when I say you could use the text box down there just to explain stuff, rather than just describing what's going on the page. Such as, why the fuck is Russell from Gorillaz here? And no, we don't get any answers for that. Just as much as how we don't get any answers on why the doctor can understand the Japanese guy Ryo, but he's able to understand the tiger that eats Ryo seconds later through telepathy.
Maybe that's just a Doctor Who ability he just yanks out of his ass. Lord knows there's a lot of that shit going on.
Anyway, Ryo gets absolutely super fucked by the tiger, and after a rip-off of the "Oh really" meme to really just timestamp the fuck out of this comic, the Doctor and Austin both flee. That's until they run into Ripper, who's a... Anyway, Ripper gets his claws on Austin and the Doctor leaves him behind. We then see how Ripper bites off Austin's head, and then the weirdest part happens. Apparently, the scene of Austin getting ripped to shreds is too gruesome to be shown on TV, so there's instead a frame saying, "The author censored this rating-breaking frame. If you wish to see the image, please send $10 US or more via PayPal to austinwolfclaw@hotmail.com. Did you catch that? You have to pay $10 or more to see a single fucking frame of this comic. Fuck you guys, go work for EA with that shit. Anyway, now it's only the Doctor left, and he comes face to face with a gigantic crocodile called Gregfor, who first eats the TARDIS and then the Doctor. They don't explain how the Doctor ends up in the TARDIS, but fuck me, I guess he does. And in there, he apparently clones Austin back to life, and Austin has all the memories of him being eaten, despite he wouldn't have that, seeing the sample of him was taken way before that. But Austin also says he liked being devoured, so there's that. And the comic ends with either the TARDIS teleporting away or being turned into poop. I honestly do not know nor care.
So that's just one of the arcs. Are you weirded out yet? Don't you worry, we got one more.
This one is Arc 12, Macro and Micro. And yes, you know exactly what's going to happen if you speak English. We're about to deal with incredibly small people and incredibly big people, because that's also a fetish, and one that's closely tied to war from what I can understand. And this comic doesn't fuck around. It starts with some giant fox picking up a bus and then proceeds to ask, and I quote, "Is it a tart cart?" Now, I've gotten some people angry with me because I sometimes say something is retarded. I specifically only do it about subjects or situations, never actual people. Because I know that calling mentally handicapped people retarded is bad, and when you use the word to address people, it gains the power of being an offensive term. So, while I fully endorse using the word retarded as a term to describe something as bad or stupid, I also understand how bad it is to use the word to poke fun of people, and I would never do that. And, as if this wasn't bad enough, the giant fox then proceeds to grab the bus and yeet it at a bridge, destroying it and with it all the people on top of the bridge, and the comic is even called "Yes, We Went There." And for once, Austin opens his dumb mouth, and I'm saying it's dumb cause for once he could have shut the fuck up and it wouldn't land him in any hot water. As he says, we went there, as in I went there and made fun of the I-35W bridge collapse. I had to look this up, but apparently this is referring to a bridge that carried Interstate 35W across the St. Anthony Falls of the Mississippi River in Minneapolis, that crashed due to a catastrophic failure during the evening rush hour on August the 1st, 2007, killing 13 people and left over 145 people injured. And just for reference, this comic was made 24 days after that horrible event took place, ridiculing the event by having a giant fox, throwing a bus at it, calling it a tart bus, and then having Micros 0, Macros 1 over it, as if it was a fucking scoreboard.
And just like that, I think I'm allowed to say that Austin is a goddamn asshole.
This event spurs the war between the micros and the macros, but, and I'm not passing any needed knowledge for this to make sense, mind you, the mayor of Minneapolis and the mayor of St. Paul have a meeting in which the Minneapolis mayor smacks the St. Paul mayor with a phone book, and then we are told that the war is over and it actually happened, not because of the destruction of a bridge that left over 100 people injured, but because that day is the first annual macro hash bash. Yeah, you heard that right. And after a bunch of bullshit that makes no sense, the war is over, the macros gets high, and a dude finds a death note, and then the arc stops.
Now, do you see why I kind of stopped myself when I was trying to say that this comic at least wasn't offensive?
Now that you've gotten an idea of what this comic is, I think we can all agree that this is terrible, awful, and downright hilariously bad. But the problem is that it's not even so bad that it's good. It's boring, it's offensive, it's trying and failing to achieve a thing that by all means should be rather simple to accomplish, but it doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason for whatever happens, there's no drama, no tension, there's no stakes, and there's not even anything to crack a smile at. I don't know what this comic is trying to do, but it's failing in every single small thing of it. The best thing I can say is that it doesn't have any spelling errors, which, for a guy who draws like this, is honestly surprising. And before you ask, yes, this is 100% a comic that's being serious. It's not bad on purpose, it's as serious as a fucking heart attack.
The comic is bad, okay? It's fucking bad.
I like to think I have a reputation for being fair. I will never clown on you or dunk on you if I got nothing against you. I obviously can't say the same for your comic, but I will typically leave you out of the equation, because as I've said many times before, I review comics, not people. However, if you do start fucking up, if you do start portraying yourself as a dogshit person, then I maintain my right to start clowning on you, but only as long as it reflects your comic. Well, keep that in your mind, cause I'm about to blow you guys' mind with an amazing segue. Cause this comic's art is dog shit. It's freaking trash. No matter how you slice it, bake it, twist it, turn it, bob it, it just looks bad. Colors are off, details are non-existent, characters look terrible, and the two most stunning things are: one, this was started by a person who had 22 years to actually learn how to draw, but fair enough, not everyone knows how to draw when they first begin and learn by doing. That's fair. Which leads me into number two, which is, this is how it looks today, 18 years later. And I'm not even embellishing that fact. This page here is from yesterday. The guy is now 40 years old and he draws like a toddler who first discovered paint. And maybe, just maybe, he'd be better at drawing if he made use of today's sponsor, Skillshare.
It's a sponsor plug.
If you don't know about Skillshare, then you probably lived under a rock or simply just made a habit of avoiding everything good in the universe. Skillshare is an amazing site where a bunch of professionals are teaching you all sorts of stuff in a ton of different fields. They provide you step-by-step guides, core knowledge, and even the resources so you can follow along with the classes at home. You can even join various live workshops and chat with the teacher as they're taking you through various different lessons. Today, I want to highlight character illustration, drawing face, figures and clothing by Gabriel Piccolo, who's a comic artist and illustrator. Gabriel takes you through how he creates his characteristic illustrations that manages to convey movement and emotion in every single illustration. The class has already had over 68,000 students, and you can be one too. If you use the link in the description, you can sign up for Skillshare and get the 2 first months off for free, which should give you plenty of time to test the waters and see if this is something you would like. So, use the link in the description and indulge yourself in the plethora of knowledge on Skillshare.
Now, I'm not saying Austin could have used this. I'm just saying he probably should have.
Returning to something not quite as lovely as putting food on my table, let's look at the art of Carnivores some more. It cannot be overstated how bad the art is. I know it's such a go-to criticism to use, which is why I've done it so many times, to say something looks like a toddler made it, but that really feels like the case here. It's like, okay, so I make a lion, and a lion has big teeth and dangerous claws and a bushy mane and a tail. I did it! It's so basic and so simple and oh so stiff. And really, it's kind of whatever to a certain extent. Like, it looks bad, but that's about it. But the most staggering thing is that it stays consistently this bad for almost 20 years. And that is where I'm just in fucking awe. 20 years with weekly uploads, and there's not a single solitary improvement done to the art. Heck, in some cases, it might even have looked better at the beginning. How do you draw so much for so long without improving even just a little? If anyone drew for as long as this guy, they'd be amazing at art. Yet Austin consistently stayed at this level, which is frankly, like, it's gotta be impossible, surely. Like, he's gotta dumb his skills down to keep it all looking the same, surely. Right?
Like, I genuinely do not believe his art has managed to stay this poor for so long. There's just no way. It has got to be a troll or something.
So, if I told you that the comic as it goes experiments with various different art styles, that'd be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? Like, it starts using sprite art, for example. And if you know sprite art, or know an eccentric weeb called Cloudy who will show it to you daily, you'll know that sprite art can be incredible as a conveyor of information despite the low pixel count of the characters involved. The sheer emotes and facial stuff you can do with them is really impressive. So you'll be happy to know that Austin manages none of that. In fact, if what I've just shown you is here, and the beginning of 8-bit theater is somewhere around here, Carnivore is somewhere here. This is mainly because I think Austin could only find so many sprites of, say, the protagonist in the arc, a tiger, that it has a standing and sleepy variation, and he did not possess the ability to change it up himself. So it's kinda hard to tell a story when your character is either only standing or sleeping. I also think Austin had a problem in just finding any and all sprites, as the arc in general feels like a jumbled mess, as characters that makes no sense being there will just show up. Because I guess that was just one sprite that Austin could find at the time. And lastly, it's so incredibly hard to tell what's going on, because the sprites are so small in the comic and not nearly enough was done to separate them from the background.
I'm not saying that making sprite art can't be hard to do, right? I'm just saying that Austin somehow failed in putting in a PNG and adding a text bubble.
Hey, guess what? The art is bad. It's really bad. It's shit your parents tell you will go on the fridge but throw out while you're in school bad. Weirdly enough, the only thing kinda passable with this comic's art is its score, which again, for a comic about war, is an interesting choice, cause honestly, if this was just a comic where you enjoyed seeing people getting eaten and people having big stomachs, then fine, whatever, you know? But the fact is that it doesn't as much do that as it portrays people getting chewed up, ripped to shreds, and just all sorts of other vile shit. Why? What are you trying to do with this comic, my guy? Is it not a war fetish comic? Then what's this other shit? And if it's not a war fetish comic, then what the fuck is it? The art style and writing clash so blatantly against one another that it serves only to confuse me more than anything.
Like, unless you find shittily drawn people and animals getting ripped into shreds and then being eaten funny, then I honestly don't see how this comic could be for anyone. So because this comic doesn't really have any consistent characters worth speaking about, I figured I would dedicate this entire segment to just talk about the single one character that is somewhat consistent and shows up again and again in the comic, and that is Austin.
You see, Austin is more than just an artist and a writer. He's so much more. In fact, he's a fellow content creator here on this godforsaken platform where they don't tell you how the shit works. Here you will find videos such as this. Which, you know, it sure is a thing, alright. He also used to have a thing called 6 points where he'd cover 6 different points.
2016 was a bad year because of all the shootings. There were shootings in Michigan, Missouri, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Minnesota, North Carolina, South Carolina. And Cincinnati. Can't forget Harambe.
Moving quickly along, Austin is also the owner of Wolf Den Productions that hosts the podcast called Wolf Den Radio, and
I have a headset that's plugged in, right? I guess I gotta set it up or something, I don't know. Welcome to Wolf Den Radio. My name's Austin Wolfclaw. Today is the 6th of September 2020. Tomorrow's Labor Day and everybody will be having babies.
Austin, could you lower the
I spent a little time before the show rearranging the desk. I took out the roll-out
the music, put it down!
I'm not even trying to be funny here. Every time Austin talks, this really loud music is playing at the same time in the background. The people featuring on the radio, however, seems to be much better at mixing their audio, but I can't actually play you any of that because it's filled with the most racist, homophobic shit I've heard in a long time. Like, if you think I'm cussing a lot, which I am, replace every cuss word with all the letter words you're not allowed to say, and you practically got those segments. I swear it's like toddlers trying to be edgy, only I'm sure these people are closer to 50 than I am to 40. Anyway, the last thing I want to say about that radio show is that if you look at their website, it exists, I suppose. But I want to direct your attention to this, cause it legit made me laugh my ass off. Rules of broadcasting on WWE PPV weeks. What determines WDR being broadcast is based on the following. If WWE shows end between 11 and 11:30, then a full 2-hour WDR will broadcast. If a WWE show ends between after 11:30 and midnight, a 1-hour WDR will be broadcast. If a WWE show ends at or after midnight, WDR will be cancelled for that week.
Listen, Austin just really doesn't want to miss out on WWE, okay?
So besides being a YouTuber and a radio host and a comic creator and a Sour Patch Kids connoisseur? Question mark?
This is a limited edition Chips Ahoy with Sour Patch Kids.
Austin is also a romantic soul. Oh yes, he will serenade you one of his many parody songs like the all-time classic I Can't Get No Christmas Presents.
I can't get no Christmas presents. Cause I'm a Jewish peasant, but I try, and I try, and I try, and I try. I can't get no, I can't get no.
Honestly, I can't hate on this stuff. It's not really well done, I think we can all agree on that, but honestly, I'm just impressed with how consistent Wolfclaw is. Like, having all of these things, and he has somehow managed to keep it going for as long as he has. And that's despite little to no viewers or listeners. If you go to the Wolf Den Studios Facebook page, you'll find no one interacting with the posts, and only a measly 10 people actually following the site. Scrolling through his Twitter is the same story, and the same goes for his Facebook, which I'm not gonna show because it includes his real name and stuff. And for a moment there, when watching this, you kind of forget something. You forget the horribly offensive comic strips, the racist and homophobic shit his friends say on the radio station, and the alleged criminal record, and you realize that Austin is just a guy. A guy who's probably suffering from something, and all he wants is just to set his mark on the internet. Be it through streams, videos, radio, comics, etc. He just wants to create, and frankly, I condone that. Sure, let's be real, he's not good at it, but he just wants to create, and there's nothing more pure than that. Now you just need to stop making fun of real life tragedies and cut all the homophobic and racist shit out, and you're good.
It would be easy to chalk this up as just another teenager trying to be obsessively edgy, but I need to remind you guys that Austin is 40 years old at this point.
So, what are we left with? We're left with a guy who is no doubt very creative in many different ways, who, when he wants to do something, he does it, but I fear he's refusing to listen to criticism, because if he did, he would change his art style, he would stop redlining his microphone all the time, and he'd probably learn to better mix his audio. I honestly don't think Austin is a bad person, I just think he's an idiot who's made a continued amount of mistakes over the many years he's been a person online. And if that at all came out when he used himself as a self-insert in his comic, then I honestly think I'd like the comic more. But instead he's kinda like Phil from Yosh, just a dumb idiot who's being strung along on wacky adventures, ever so often being devoured, and even later on seemingly trying to be devoured on purpose. There's nothing to talk about with the characters, as they're all just super minimal, inconsistent, and many don't even show up again despite Austin making a big deal out of introducing the characters. So, instead, the only real thing to talk about is Austin. But really, talking about him just makes me sad.
So, instead, let's just go right into the final verdict.
The writing is a free. I guess I can sorta appreciate the many different places the comic goes, but that's about it. You don't even really get to fully appreciate the different places the comic goes when it's in such a hurry to jump all over the place, oftentimes forgetting its initial setting. The art is a free. Again, I can sort of appreciate how Austin tries to tell his story through all these different styles, but it just doesn't work, and it worries me greatly that he's improved so little in such a long span of time. The characters are one. It's Austin. Austin's the only character there with any sort of personality, and even that is lackluster and empty at its best of times. All in all, this comic isn't free. It's a bad comic. It's not even a comic that's fun to read because of how bad it is. I don't think it would even be salvaged if you were actually into war and the other shit it portrays. Carnivores is a bad comic, and it's not even funny bad. I wouldn't even recommend that you go check it out just so you can share it with your friends. It's just not worth it. With that being said, I do wish Austin the best, because as I've said before, I do wholly appreciate a person that is so enthusiastic about just creating. Let me know what you guys think and post the next comic you want me to cover in the comment section, and I'll see you guys at the next Webcomic Relief. Take care. So that was Carnivores. That sure was something that made me wanna die. Yeah. That sure is something, alright. But hi. Thank you for watching the video here. If you've been noticing some different changes on the channel lately, it's because I've been trying to change the Webcomic Relief to better fit into the YouTube algorithm to get more views and subscribers and such. But it seems like it's not really working, so I guess I don't really know whether or not I'm going to continue making these changes, or if I'm just gonna say fuck it and run my own show and then be happy that I'm at the almost 10,000 subscribers. I don't really know. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. In terms of news, there's not a whole lot, as usual. The reason why this Webcomic Relief video has taken so long is because I kind of figured that I wanted to focus on the internship that I'm currently doing. And I figured that way I could have the different episodes of Show and Tell to keep you guys entertained while I focused on that. But I realized that it has taken a little while, and I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you enjoyed the wait. Enjoyed the video that was worth the wait. Yeah, I don't really think there's much more to say, so let's just dive into the amazing people that have sponsored this video. Jason, aka Clusterskulls, is making animations that are mostly for adults aside of YouTube. So if you think that is something that you would be interested in, there's a link in the description that you should definitely go check out. McKay, that we all know and love from his Rooster Teeth comics and Balls to That, is currently working on comics for DnD Beyond and has now taken over doing comics for the Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms game at codenameentertainment.com. So go check it out. Newcomb. Nana is working on a webcomic called 6 Months, which is a romantic comic of a detective who falls in love with a superhero of the city. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice that Nana has been a long-time supporter of the Webcomic Relief, and my god, can you tell she's improved in that time. So please, go check out 6 Months. Why Not Warrior? Why Not wants me to push the webcomic known as Hope. The comic is about superheroes that gets into trouble and who has to save the universe from an evil empire known only as Spade. When the young girl Raylan gets targeted by this empire, she joins forces with her friends to take them down and save the galaxy. The Bonsai. The bonsai doesn't want me to push anything, so just know he's an awesome and super talented guy, and be on the lookout for when he finally drops what he's working on. Hugo Junstrand. When he's not making my super awesome title cards, Hugo is also making super sick animations that you can commission, as well as sick music that you can all find on his YouTube channel. If you wanna listen to awesome music covers with stylish and unique animations to them, then swing by Hugo's channel and give him a sub. Sebastian Van Boer. Sebastian wants me to push the Twitter account Curious Zelda, which has a rich plethora of cute and funny cat images. He doesn't own the account or anything, but he just likes cats, so there you go. Amosen. Amosen is running the webcomic known as Druids, which is a mature twist on the whole World of Warcraft lore and story. So if you wanna see a more mature spin on the World of Warcraft setting, then by all means go and check it out. Lead Days. Lead Days actually wants me to push the Webcomic Relief Discord, believe it or not. It's one of his more active spaces and he would love to see new people show up there. So, and I can only agree with this, go check it out. I'm a Moron. I'm a Moron's girlfriend is doing custom made animal pins that you can hang on your clothes, your hats or what have you. If this sounds like anything you'll be interested in, go check it out. I will personally buy one of these because they are super cute and really well done. And of course we cannot forget about the lovely Nina, huh? Now to Kamagira Terumi, Hitori the Artist, KH Raphael, Draco of Adrian, and Shiv. And also a massive, huge I love you to all the amazing people that you see on screen right now. If you want to support the show, there's a ton of different ways you can do so. You can use the link in the description to get those 2 months off of your Skillshare subscription that I told you about. You can also buy some Webcomic Relief t-shirts, or you can hop in on Patreon and pledge any amount of money that you want to pay every month, and as a result you can get rewards from shoutouts, product plugs, early access to videos, even one-on-one coaching with me, and you can even get the latest show and tell of Persona all gathered in one video. All of these links will be in the description. If you don't want to support the show financially, please think about liking the video, commenting on the video, and share the video with your friends, and of course remember to subscribe with the bell thingy turned on. You know, cause I cuss a lot, so YouTube doesn't want to show off my videos. Trust me, just liking or leaving a comment helps the videos tremendously. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hellraiser, and also drop by my Twitch channel Riser Plays, where I every now and again stream video games and analyze them, or just talk a bunch of dumb stuff. And seeing that it's October, we might be playing some horror games for the sake of another show and tell video coming up in the future. Who knows? I'll see you guys at the next Webcomic Relief. Take care.